Serral has been looking absolutely lethal lately. Over the last couple of weeks, in particular in the Zerg versus Terran matchup, he's been looking nearly unstoppable. I've casted him going up against players like, for example, Maru, like, for example, Cure, the current number 1 and 2 Terrans in the world, and he dismantles them. He makes them look like they aren't even really that good at the game. Now, what I've got for you today is another best of 5 series. It's another Zerg versus Terran, where in the bottom right-hand corner in game number 1, of course, we have none other than Serral. But this time around, his opponent, well, it's a Korean Terran, but it's a man he hasn't faced off against in about a half-year time. The last time that these two played against each other was in March, so it's been a little while. Playing right here with the blue Terran pieces, we have the man who repopularized that double barracks opener at the start, but that's not what he's going for here. We're looking inside of the main base of ByuN, who decides to go for a command center first. And you know what? I like this. ByuN decides to not so much play the map, not so much play the matchup, but play the opponent. Because really, what are the odds of Serral going for an early game spawning pool and like a Roach Rush or a Ling Cheese or something along those lines? You may as well go for a command center first and try to get this series off on the right foot, because ByuN obviously is well aware of the reputation that Serral has been building up over the last couple of, well, years, really. I mean, for a little while there, it looked like Serral was a mortal man. And I guess he still looks pretty mortal in Zerg versus Zerg in particular. He's losing against players like, for example, Raynor, and recently against Solar as well. He loses every once in a while, especially in ZVZ. But in Zerg versus Terran and Zerg versus Protoss, he's looking absolutely world-class. And he really has been for a long while. I mean, there was a small period or a short period where he was looking human. But these days, once again, absolutely unstoppable. Now, this is one hell of a greedy build right here from ByuN. So, it's a command center first, into double barracks, into a reactor as well, without an SCV scout. Serral is gonna see the timing right here of the barracks. Okay, but that's really all he sees, and I don't really know if that's gonna give him too much information. At the very least, he sees that there's no factory. There's a second add-on as well on this barracks. There's another barracks coming up, and barracks number 4 also on the back of this. So let me get this straight. We are not gonna have any Terran units out until like minute 3. Now this is gonna be one hell of an attack though here from ByuN, cause yeah, Stimpack starts up right now a little bit before 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and after our command center first with double orbital command, he's gonna have a booming economy right from the get-go here. Now that those mules are mining, he should be able to start harvesting a lot more than his opponent, and that should also result in a lot more units. It's just that this has been very risky, because if Serral decided to go for any sort of early game aggression, he would have been in a lot of trouble. Now Serral, interestingly enough, not opening up with triple hatch, he's decided to go for a lair here before link speed. And now a Roach Warren over here as well at the front. So this basically means, I mean, there's no third hatch anywhere, right? This basically means that he's opening up with a double hatchery Roach start, which may be intended as an aggressive attack. We'll have to see if he decides to go for like a Nidus Worm or maybe an Evo Chamber, or if he's just playing this as a macro build. Maybe he's well aware of what Mr. ByuN is going for, so there is a little Zergling scout here that's checking out the Marines, I guess. But does he really know exactly what he's playing against? He does have that Overlord over here in a very curious position. Now, he starts up Roach production right now at 41 drones. So triple gas, lair is done. I'm assuming we're gonna go Roach speed here at 100 minerals. Right about right now. There we go. Overseer comes up. Ah, okay. So this Overseer will figure out exactly what's going on. And you know what? This may actually be the perfect answer to what ByuN is going for here. Yeah, so now Serral sees what's happening. So it's command center first into 4 barracks, into Stimpack and combat shields, and just a stupid amount of Marines. There's no medevacs, there's obviously no factory here either, it's just gonna be a lot of Marines. Now, to put this in perspective, normally a 16 Marine drop hits at about, well, 16 Marines, right? At about 5 minutes and 10 seconds with 2 medevacs and Stimpack and then a whole lot of Marines. We're already up to 26 and we're not even at 5 minutes and 10 seconds yet. Yeah, Stimpack is done, Combat Shield is finishing up right now. The thing is, this is not Serral who's opening up with that Mass Queen Ling Bane army, right? Where he would be waiting right now for Baneling speed to finish up. He didn't go double Evo either. As a matter of fact, he's just got a bunch of Roaches, and Roaches are gonna be an excellent answer right here against Marines, right? I think so. Yeah, I think so. It should be okay. There's a lot more units popping out of those cocoons as well. Oh, this has got to be a painful start right here for ByuN, man. This is one of those sniper builds, right? I guess that's the best way to describe it. ByuN has been studying those Serral replays. He's been looking probably at the same games that I've casted of Serral going up against, for example, Maru and, for example, Cure, and he's specifically come up with this. And then Serral, almost by accident, I don't think it was an accident, actually. He must have noticed that this is something that ByuN has been playing lately. He just counters it pretty easily. Okay, now, is this a overwhelming advantage right now for Serral? No. But the early game here for ByuN has been pushed back very nicely. His start command center is, of course, very late. We can say the same thing for Serral's third hatchery. It's just that as soon as this aggression shuts down, Serral can drone up, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's working on his economy and his tech right now. Fourth hatchery coming up here in the bottom left-hand corner. And interestingly enough, he's been mixing up his playstyle too, right? And it's kind of interesting. We've got ourselves the Tunneling Claws upgrade coming up. Burrow is being researched, and we're gonna go for the Overlord Speed upgrade. Like, if you would have covered up the nicknames of these players, maybe I would have assumed this was ByuN playing, because ByuN definitely is a cheeky man. But Serral is playing a style here that nobody is really copying, and he's been doing it in a lot of games. Like, all of the other high-level Zergs, they're all playing that Ling Bane-based army, and maybe they're going a little bit of Roach Ravager-based play as well. But Serral almost strikes me as somebody who's completing side quests right now, because he completed the main quest of StarCraft 2 ages ago. 2-base Lair into Roach Speed, now into Tunneling Claws with Overlord Speed, a late 4th hatchery and a late 3rd hatch, now into an Infestation Pit. Like, the one criticism that players had of Serral over the years, right? And it's not even really criticism, it's just like a point of note, I guess, something noteworthy, is that he was a bit predictable, right? That's the main criticism. Serral would have a little bit of that innovation thing, where Innovation, the Terran player who used to compete a lot back in the day, one of the very best players ever, but he would basically do the same strategy over and over and over again. And it looks like Serral's been working on exactly that. Now, it's not working out all too well over here. And I guess his backbone is still that macro-focused, well, Zerg bio army, right? Like Marines and, Marines and Marauders, he wishes. That Ling Bane-based army instead, where he's just overwhelming his opponent with loads of stuff. But he's been mixing in a lot more variety as of late, and I love it. Now, is it the best strategy to play here? I'm actually not entirely sure. But he does have a nice economy here. He does have decent upgrades here as well. Now, all things considered, we still have a Hive that started up right around the 8-minute mark. +2/+2 coming up right here for ByuN, who's probably want to go for, he's going to want to go here for a big attack relatively soon. Now adding on those additional barracks as well. Even though the early game, I mean, it wasn't particularly successful, Zerg's economy was also really nothing to write home about. And even though this is a bit of unexplored territory right now, even after all these years of competitive StarCraft, ByuN is still playing Marine Marauder Medevac, which is something he's been playing for years. The timings, though, are a little bit different, and yeah, it may sometimes make the game a little bit more complex than it ordinarily would be. Is he gonna go for a 4th command center here? That's my main question. Judging by the fact that he's adding on additional barracks right now, I think he's turning what was originally a 2-base all-in into now a 3-base all-in instead, because he's gonna go up to barracks 6, 7, 8. So he's gonna go... Oh, this gets scouted as well by Serral. Lovely little scout here. Serral sees the timing of those additional barracks, and he must realize that this is gonna be, for all intents and purposes, a 2nd layer to the all-in. Yeah, there will be a 4th command center on the back of it, but on 3 bases, you can barely afford producing out of all of these structures that ByuN has just made, and economy definitely is gonna take the back seat here for the foreseeable future. Here's the problem. The one counter against 8 Rex builds is the Lurker. I mean, the Lurker, well, it's not the one counter, but the most reliable counter is definitely the Lurker. Lurkers are just incredibly powerful at stopping these attacks, and if Serral can get there, he's gonna feel really good about himself. Fungal growth! Big fungal growth right here. Couple infestors mixed in as well, another thing that Serral historically never really has done. Couple roaches here in the bottom left-hand corner as well, trying to be annoying. At least the hatchery over here gets cancelled, but there should be room for another one over there. Yeah, normally Serral wouldn't add on a lot of infestor play until later on into the game. This always kind of strikes me as a dark-based opener instead, where Dark for a while there at least, like a year or two ago, he would always get 2 infestors. Like whenever he would tech up towards a hive, he would always get 2 infestors just for the potential of fungal growth. And well, judging by the upcoming balance patch, I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be something we'll see quite a bit more. Anyhow, here's the big attack coming up. Lurkers, however, are on the horizon. We have the ranged upgrade for the Lurkers coming up too. These marine drops are starting to be lethal though. But here's the Lurkers, right? Yeah, and how in the world do you attack now? At least the 4th CC is finishing up. Zerg's economy, again. Normally it's much bigger at this point in the game than it is here. Just because of Serral's opener. He hasn't really had that much money. Big boost into the main base, because this is of course still ByuN. ByuN is a big fan of those tomb drops. Sorry, Mr. Marauder man. Not gonna happen. But it is maybe opening up the front door here on the left. Yeah, for ByuN to push in. This is turning into a very competitive game though. ByuN is now maxed out. But he's maxed out on a early game-ish unit composition, right? He's got a lot of stuff. Ooh, he decides to stim into the Lurkers. Always a dangerous decision. Whereas Serral has got a lot more high-tech units. Here's a classic mistake that ByuN makes all of the time, which bothers me to no end. Only ByuN does this at this level of play, where he's prioritizing the armor upgrade over the attack upgrade. Now, the numbers have been run many times. It is much better to go for the attack upgrade rather than the armor upgrade first. So if you can only afford one, you should always be going for the attack upgrade. Yet ByuN consistently seems to go for the armor upgrade first. So if the names actually were covered at this point in the game and you know, I wouldn't know who was playing, I definitely would have guessed ByuN here. Big drop continues once again in the main base. And you know what? ByuN is really starting to lay down the law here. Spawning pool goes down. Ooh, he's got to be careful though. Fungal growths are once again here on the left side of your screen, and that's gonna hurt. There is a roach drop in the meantime, or a roach run by in the meantime over there, creating a bit of a distraction. The problem is these units can't really easily escape if they are fungaled. Alright, so maybe the spawning pool fell, and it looked like Terran was ready to overwhelm the main base of the Zerg. I think Serral capitalized on that situation quite nicely by creating chaos on the other side of the map and shutting down that drop lane. I wonder if ByuN gets frustrated by this at all, because he's a very emotional player. If you've ever seen him play a game of StarCraft 2, you must have noticed that he gets very much so in his own head. Constantly going for the +3 armor before the attack upgrade though, really, like... Now he finally starts up the second upgrade. Ay. That's gotta be frustrating. Still though, he's doing a good job here. Actually, after the early game, I didn't think he was ever gonna be in this position, but he's now pushing through. Lurkers are going down, just good old Marine Marauder medevac, man. Sure, this may be an early game unit composition compared to that of the Zerg, but he's starting to overwhelm Serral here. Let's go, ByuN. He's gotta be so careful though, because those spines, if they connect one too many times, this Terran army just gets overwhelmed. In the meantime, yeah, the Lurker den in the main base is now in a bit of trouble as well. There were some SCVs going down. Okay, that's a Lurker here as well, trying to harass whatever it can. Orbital command, by the way, here for ByuN. So rather than going for a planetary fortress, he is playing 4 orbital. 4-bital, as you could call it as well. Now the supply count, though, is looking a little bit healthier here for Serral. And I'm a little afraid that as soon as ByuN lets his foot off the gas, which he may very well need to do right now because he's running out of gas here, he's running out of petrol, Serral is going to start overwhelming him. Yeah, the trades over the last couple of minutes have been looking pretty good overall for the Terran. It's just that he hasn't teched up properly. Now the ghosts are coming up, but he just doesn't have the firepower at this point in the game anymore, especially of course with that +3 attack missing. In the end, it is going to be Serral who wins a very interesting game number 1. Babylon is going to be game number 2 in this best of 5 series, and once again, yeah, ByuN has decided not to go for the double barracks opener that he's been repopularizing as of late. He's once again gonna go for a command center first. Serral has gone for a 15 supply hatchery on the low ground into a 15 supply overlord, and now also a spawning pool on the back of this. So once again, that I guess we call it the Eric opener, but fair enough. This is an old school build. It's Eric who repopularized it as well, I suppose. I'm not entirely sure who came up with the double barracks back in the early days of StarCraft 2. It's been quite a while. But it's cool to see these old school builds once again making a return. That said, okay, ByuN does decide to mix it up right now. So in game number 1 of this series, he decided to go command center into barracks, into barracks, into add-on, into add-on, into barracks, into barracks. And then eventually some units as well, right? I figured that he wasn't going to be able to play that 2 games in a row, because it's just too dangerous, especially when your opponent now knows what you're going for. There's always a chance that your opponent would punish you for it, although it doesn't look like that would have been the case in this game here. Serral actually opening up with more greed himself, too. There's some crazy mind games going on. Serral decides to skip gas play altogether. Is he going to go for a 3rd hatchery this game before gas? He's doing a gasless opener. Imagine this would have been like some proxy gateways, or, well, proxy gateways would be kind of sick. Proxy barracks on the other side of the map. These guys are not even... They're finally playing a strategy game, dude. I guess that's why I'm excited. Yeah. High-level StarCraft 2, even after all these years of competition, oftentimes comes down to who executes what faster. And StarCraft may very well be a real-time strategy game, but oftentimes more stuff beats less stuff, and if you're faster and cleaner than your opponent at the execution, eventually you will get there. These guys are playing... Look at this. This is a 3rd hatchery before a gas geyser. That is very risky when you don't know what your opponent is doing. Now, what exactly is ByuN doing? So he went for a command center first into a barracks, into double gas, and now eventually, I guess, a 1-1-1 on the back of this too. No 3rd command center before the starport, so we'll probably see the 3rd CC added on right about over here, or maybe right around over there a little bit later. Depends on how much he wants to give away here. Serral once again does have an overlord though, close to the main base of the Terran, and I would imagine that he's, yeah, indeed gonna fly this in. Normal timing is around 3:45 or so that you want to see what's happening, although Serral may have very well refined that number to something that suits him a little bit better. Once again, skipping link speed, straight into a Roach Warren. I would normally call this an early Roach Warren, because normally we wouldn't see a Roach Warren go down pre-4 minutes. And in a normal game, I would consider this a Roach attack. But I don't think that's the case here. No. No, I think we're just doing like a macro Roach Warren opener. The I don't want to die to anything stupid build. Although there were already a lot of opportunities here for the Terran to make the Zerg player suffer here against something stupid. What a build. So no Lara this time around either, huh? I guess Serral's assuming that the opponent is going for the same strategy as last game, or at least something similar to it. Now he's seen a Hellion though, so he must have realized that something is a bit different, but... What do we have here? It's a Cyclone Marine drop. Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that makes no sense, actually. Like, that makes... Stimpack starts up about a minute and a half later than in the previous game. Okay. Now the barracks are coming, though, so all the roads do lead towards the same unit composition eventually. But these guys are out here gaming. That's basically what I'm describing with many words. These guys, they're out here gaming. ByuN has decided that the most damage he can possibly deal against Serral, apparently, is Overlords. So he's trying to snipe a bunch of Overlords. He got 1. Now the 3rd CC starts up, which, considering the start right here for ByuN, really does feel a bit late. But that's because he's prioritized barracks 2 and 3. So very regularly, with a normal opener, even with CC first, the 3rd command center goes down before the starport does. And if it doesn't go down before the starport goes down, it usually goes down after the starport before additional barracks get added on. But now ByuN decided to go command center first, into 1-1-1, into 2 more barracks, and then eventually a 3rd command center. These builds we're seeing here really are not common. Like, can you kill that? There you go. They really aren't the standard whatsoever. But I guess eventually, yeah, the game will look pretty normal. And I think a lot of people that don't follow StarCraft 2 actively, that occasionally watch a game, I hope I do a decent enough job for those people that are watching this, explaining why all of this is so strange. This may all look like a normal game, because big picture, we just arrive at a normal mid-game, where Zerg is playing roaches and the Terran's playing marine tank. But the ways we got here, I don't think you should ever execute either of these two strategies on the ladder. Like a gasless third base, skipping link speed, such a quick additional set of barracks, and then a late command center. I don't know if ByuN can deal any damage. Like, I am inclined to imagine that he thinks he needs to deal damage here, but he's not really got a big army. Like, he's got 23 Marines, 640 in the game. I mean, there's a medevac drop right now. Like I said, the 16 Marine drop in a game of StarCraft 2, in a normal game of StarCraft 2, normally hits at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Like, all of this is so wonky. We have a lot of unit production here, a lot of unit potential as well for both players, but how in the world do the timings make any sense? Now, who's better in a game of chaos? Who's better in a game of chaos? ByuN or Serral? Generally speaking, I think it's a little bit easier for Terran to play this point in the match. Because, I mean, they're still playing, you know, the unit composition that they play pretty much all the time, and they don't necessarily need that tech transition at a super strict moment. Most of their tech transitions are dependent on what the Zerg is going for, I suppose. So you need to make sure you get some ghosts going if the lurkers show up and all that sort of stuff. So I'm inclined to imagine that this is a little bit better for ByuN overall, but then again, he's going up against Serral, who's known as a great strategist, right? Like, he's very good at playing these weird games. Serral mentioned actually at a Home Story Cup not that long ago that he spends a lot of time just sitting and thinking. Raynor actually mentioned the same thing too, that he was just sitting at the computer looking at replays and spending a lot more time thinking than actually playing the game, which is very interesting. Because I guess once you've got all these mechanics, right, you may as well just think about the game. Like, you can execute without actually actively, you know, playing. Like, you don't necessarily need to practice a lot of these things. You need to make sure, well, practice is nice, of course, but yeah, thinking about strategy may very well be a more important thing. So this Ling Bane transition right now that's coming out of Serral, it looks very smooth. Like, even though I am a little perplexed here by the build that ByuN is playing, look at the timing here of the centrifugal hooks. 3 seconds away from finishing after a roach opener. It's finishing right as Terran is ready to go for a big attack. So it's done right now. Now, does he have enough to overwhelm this? Vipers are here as well, by the way, which is absolutely massive. If he gets enough energy here before this hatchery falls for blinding clouds and he can disable or maybe yoink away a couple of those tanks, that would be amazing. Yeah. Ultra cavern on the back of this too. So this is a gasless Roach Ravager opener with a late third base into Ling Bane Ultra with Viper support. Like, seriously. Alright. Anyways, the next wave is gonna have to be the committed one right here for Serral, because the hatchery would fall. And at this point, I think he's got way too much stuff here. I think ByuN has actually overstayed his welcome. Yeah, this is the entire army of the Zerg going up against only about half of the army of the Terran. ByuN was playing the little... Okay, well, at least he's gonna get the hatch, I think. If he targets it. There you go. Yeah, ByuN was playing with only half his army there. So in the end, it is gonna be snipe on the hatchery, but there's already a new hatch that has been replanted over here, and I can imagine he can start expanding a little bit further south as well here. Exactly. Hydra Den on the back of this too. So we have an Ultra Cavern. Man, these transitions make no sense. Like, they make sense in the grand scheme of things, but the timings are very random. So ultimately, he wants to go into Hydra Ling Bane with Ultra Viper support. It's just that we are going there. Like, the problem is that when ghosts start running around the map, it's very hard to make Ultras work. So I guess he's setting himself up for a Hydra Ling Bane army at that point in the game instead. But the ways we're getting here are so funny to me. Blinding clouds over here as well, shutting down those siege tanks. 6 SCVs, 14 SCVs end up going down. Insane. Honestly, so impressed by the way that Serral has been playing as of late. It looks like ByuN is punching a wall. You know, it's like a concrete wall, and ByuN is trying to punch it, and every once in a while he does land a little hit. But this does look very reminiscent of that Serral versus Maru series that I casted recently, or that Serral versus Cure series that I casted recently, where Serral just looks strategically a step or two ahead. So ByuN, by the way, is very much so still that grinder, right? Not the app. He's playing a lot of games, is what I'm saying. He plays, from what I understand, dozens of games every single day. He's probably one of the hardest working StarCraft pros in the entire game. Like, that's also why I get to cast him so frequently, as we have another big attack over here. Blinding Clouds are nice, of course. Banes are starting to connect. Loads of SCVs have gone down in the middle of all that. Beautiful corrosive bile on the back of it, too. But ByuN, very much so. I cast a lot of his games because he plays in practically every online tournament. So he plays, if I were to make a guess, on average, probably about 2 to maybe 3 dozen games a day. Right? So he probably plays like 20, 30, 40-ish games a day. Which is probably not great for your wrists, first and foremost. I know a lot of Terran players, ByuN included, have had wrist issues for a long time. Anyways, it's different. So by grinding games a lot, you build up mechanical skill, right? But there is an upper limit to how much mechanical skill you can have. Like, there are only so many supply blocks you really have to prevent yourself from hitting. Right? There are only so many macro mechanics that you really do need to practice. And there's definitely a moment where pro gamers, if you want to be a professional gamer, where you need to have those mechanics. But once you've got them, I guess it's like riding a bicycle. You can't really lose them very easily. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here. It's not like ByuN is playing poor strategies or whatever. But it does kind of feel like if this was a game of chess, that ByuN is thinking 3 moves ahead and Serral is thinking 7 moves ahead here. And I had a very similar vibe in those other series lately too. Yeah. So basically, your best mode of practice is to move to Finland. This is what I imagine, okay? To sit out on the porch, look off into nature. There's like the occasional elk. Maybe I don't know, a black bear running around. I don't know. There's a moose probably somewhere in the woods, and you just ponder StarCraft strategies. You have to become a StarCraft philosopher. Maybe that's what needs to be done. Because the practice regime of sitting there and thinking about the game, I find very interesting. I would imagine there are notebooks out there. There are definitely Serral notebooks out there of him pondering strategies. Yeah. Anyways, here he comes again. Right now, he's got enough money in the bank to go after all of these planetaries. Does he need to load up the command center with Banelings? Not quite. Looks like the Lings are going to be able to get that done, and instead the Banes are going to be used to trade out against a bunch of those Ghosts instead. Greater Spire on the back of this. More Vipers on the back of this. Roaches over here as well in the top section of the Terran base to try and get done whatever they can. We are at the point of the game, though, where Serral will gladly trade some of that Ghost energy for the Roach, because he really doesn't want to have Roaches anymore at this stage in the game. They're mostly just soaking up supply that could be used on other units. Greater Spire, together with the Lurker upgrades, all at the same time. Another one of those oddities that we have historically not seen a lot in StarCraft 2, because when you think about it, the Brute Lord, it serves the same function as the Lurker. Like, they're both long-range siege units. And yet, they do fulfill different niches, I guess, and it feels funky to see them both at the same time, but again, apparently he's found a way for it. Roach is here, stepping right outside of the zone of the Liberator. Serral moving forward. Good EMPs right there from ByuN. Lovely EMPs. But when it rains, it pours. And I think at this point, yeah, we're witnessing a Terran with a relatively slow death animation. Roaches once again coming in from the side. Now, one thing ByuN can still, of course, do is put all of his eggs in one basket, right? Try to go for a big army and then eventually overwhelm the Zerg. That is always something that is at his disposal. So one thing that I really do like here for ByuN is that he's got that transition coming up towards Terran mech. The only problem here is that he's got Terran mech transitions coming up on what is effectively like, yeah, 2.5 base economy, because the main and the natural are running out. So he is ready for that late game transition, but he doesn't have late game economy for it. So this is kind of like playing straight up mech on 2 base Terran, And I'm inclined to imagine that that would not work out particularly well. And maybe that's also the reason why we do indeed have the Lurker as well as the Brute Lord potential. Because say, for example, ByuN decides to go for a lot of Thors. If there are indeed a bunch of Brute Lords out, Serral can transition towards Lurkers. And if he needs Lurkers, well, obviously then maybe ByuN is going to go into something that is going to be good against those. And that's when the Brute Lords can once again come in. If he's too Siege Tank heavy though, Brute Lords are going to be fantastic. Well, here comes ByuN. He's got a scary army. Very little money in the bank. He's not going to be able to remake this very easily, but he could try. Zerglings ready for the counterattack. Oh, good EMPs. Lovely snipes as well there by ByuN. Let's go. Couple links here run to the front to try and see what's happening. Siege tanks are definitely not going to survive this. Losing these armories would really suck, by the way. These armories are actually very important here for ByuN, who now loses additional SCVs as well. The entirety of the Terran army, yeah, it's just sort of sitting here. I guess it's trying to protect a new base over here, but the command center is going to get the notification now that it's blocked. That was my very best SCV impression. Good, right? Yeah, he needs to get rid of that one Zergling that's being a nuisance there. Lingbane Hydra, though, seems to be clearing the job here. No need for expensive Lurkers. No need for Brute Lords here just yet. Lingbane Hydra with Vipers for support. Now Zerglings have managed to find a little bit of space here as well. Siege tanks dealing friendly fire to one another. Okay. ByuN decides to rip off the band-aid. That was one of the absolute most painful GG timings I've seen in a while. Quite literally everything that ByuN tried in this 18-minute long game, none of it worked. Ancient Cistern is going to be map number 3 in this best of 5 series. This is going to be Serral's map pick, and it's going to be match point for him. Now, ByuN decided to go for some fancy builds in game number 1 and 2, and honestly, even though he got away with it, it didn't work at all. It's not like he was in a poor position because of it, but his haha, gotcha now strategies really did not haha Serral whatsoever. They more or less ha-ha-ha'd Serral instead. This time around, though, we've got ourselves a triple Rex opener. Okay, I think I may have mentioned that this was a double Rex start. It's not. It's a triple Rex start. This is a build that doesn't really have a lot of popularity right now. We don't see it all too often. But if there's one man who is capable... Well, I mean, we don't see it all too often. We see it quite frequently, but maybe like 1 in 10 games rather than like the double barracks start. It's a lot more common to see the double barracks. Anyways, if there's one man who's capable of microing Reapers, it's of course ByuN. This is Korea going up against Europe, so I'm assuming that these games are played on the American server to make the ping in the game, the delays in the game, equally bad for the both of them. So you gotta take Reaper micro with a grain of salt, because it's much easier to micro Reapers when you have no ping, or very little ping, compared to, yeah, when you're playing overseas. Anyways, the Reaper production has been fired up, and Serral now knows what he's playing against. Third hatchery here. Just about to finish up. Link speed at least is made this time around. That's nice. It's also going to be a necessity though against this particular opener here from ByuN, because otherwise holding on to your third hatchery is going to be nearly impossible. And I believe that Serral's just given up on this third hatch. Unless he believes he should keep it around. I don't see... I think he's just using this as a way to soak up a lot of damage from those Reapers here early on. Yeah, I was going to say there's no way. Okay. So, ByuN has successfully contained his opponent on 2 bases. He's gonna check. Yeah, make sure that there's no other base over there on the right side. However, of course, this has bought a lot of time for Serral to get himself that link speed out as well. He did pull out of gas. And he's gonna try and see if he can get the wraparound here on these Reapers. Reapers roaming the high ground. Zerglings going around the site. Third hatchery here coming up. Overlord just checked in a main base to see what's going on, and it turns out the Marine transition is indeed well underway. You wouldn't be producing Reapers out of that barracks here 2 at a time. So the Marine transition has come up, and that means that the Reaper production has stopped for now. Getting a snipe on this hatchery would be massive. Ooh, Serral thinking about getting the wrap around there, but he knows that these grenades Are a little bit risky. Okay, nice control there once again from ByuN. Getting a win on this map would be really nice, by the way. Because we've seen it time and time again. There's been a lot of reverse sweeps lately. Getting a win, especially on the opponent's map pick, super good. Super nice. And this game so far is off to a good start right here. Stimpack on the horizon. Starport is going to be getting a reactor very soon, and he'll be going for that double medevac production. There's no lair yet. There's no bailing speed or anything like that coming up anytime soon. So ByuN should be able to get a nice engagement off. All he really is going to have, Serral that is going to be slow bailings, queens, and zerglings. And I think that's exactly what ByuN is looking for. Yeah, so rather than tricks, the man is just playing stock standard Terran this time around, where he's a little bit of a supply block. Where he's relying on... Oh, he actually isn't going for a move out. Oh, okay, I was gonna say. He's just a little bit late right there on the starport flyover. I was gonna say, that's a little bit funky. He's decided to go for the I wouldn't have minded him going for an attack right now, but I guess he's a little bit late right now on the medevacs. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what went wrong here. He could have had the starport transition over with the add-on there a while ago. Like, at least like half a minute earlier, but... he didn't make anything out of the factory either, did he? Anyhow. The Marines are gonna start running across the... maybe not half a minute, maybe like 15 seconds or so, but... anyways, the clock is ticking, right? Like, every second that goes by right now, Serral is gonna get closer to bailing speed. Which I would imagine is not gonna... no, I was gonna say. That would be crazy if he goes armor upgrade here before bane speed. Anyways, I can imagine that is gonna be his main priority. He started armor, cancelled armor, and then went into the bane speed here instead. Okay. This is a scary attack. Love the snipes right there of those creep tumors as well. Okay, Stimpack has already been activated. The micro has to be on point though. He's still microing against Zerg on creep. Very dangerous. Bunch of the Marines also get caught in the KD8 grate. Or the 80 KD8 grenade charges. Nice targeting! Beautiful targeting there by ByuN. I tried to caster flex on you by calling out the grenade name of the Reaper and then I messed it up. Embarrassing, dude. But I do believe, yeah, that this is not embarrassing for ByuN whatsoever. Beautiful game here by ByuN. No more tricks required. Straight up gameplay is the way to go. Alright, our next game is on the map Royal Blood. And in 4 different games, we've had 4 different builds right here from ByuN. This is the most conventional one. Should go for a Marine after this, then a Reactor. Fly the factory on over towards the Reactor, start pumping out those Hellions 2 at a time, and a little bit of Reaper harassment on the back of this. He decides to skip the Marine. Technically a little bit greedy. Normally you go for the Marine in case it would be like a pool first opener from the Zerg. But you know what? In this particular series, Serral has not shown any of that, so he decides to just go straight into the Reactor instead. SCV, heading towards the right side of the map. We'll have to keep an eye on exactly what he decides to go for there. Could be a proxy starport, I suppose? That's an option. Yeah, alright. Proxy starport here. Dangerous play from ByuN. But never afraid to put all of his eggs in one basket. That previous game, though, is a big... I guess more so than anything, mental win there for ByuN, right? Because you can imagine, like, you've been preparing for the series, you've come up with strategies, and you manage to pull off the strategies and you just get shut down. Like, the door gets closed in your face. And you wonder, okay, what in the world did I even really do wrong there? Well, turns out your opponent was just a little bit stronger overall. Then game number 3, he decides to play to his strengths. And ByuN's micro is honestly incredible. Like, the target firing right there on those banelings was fantastic. Even though I was butchering my... Okay, well, I was just talking about how his Reaper control was so sick. Even though I was butchering the KD8 charge, that's the name of the grenade. That the Reaper throws onto the floor. Even though I was butchering the pronunciation of that, I think ByuN was doing an excellent job microing all of those Reapers and throwing around some good grenades as well. Now, this is gonna be a Terran versus Protoss build, basically. Is there a little bit of dark space here in the main base of the Zerg? There is not. Normally, though, yeah, this is once again a 2-base opener with a quick lair. Normally, you would have a bunch of speedlings running towards this Hellion group. There are no speedlings here because Serral decided to skip the Zerglings. Okay, that's a lot of drones going down. 9 drones going down, okay. If you can get a couple more, medevac does fall. That's kind of expensive. Would have liked to see that one boost away. No reason for it to stick around here. Okay, well, that was still pretty good, yeah. Getting a few more drones right there at the tail end of that engagement actually made it a lot better. I don't know why the medevac died. Honestly, the medevac dying is kind of silly. Really didn't need to happen. Could have just flown it back. Like, there was no way that those Hellions were going to get out. Or at least I don't think he was planning on getting them out. So you may as well, if that's the case, keep one of the most important units around. Definitely not the end of the world, though, for Serral either. This is a game that's off to a good start here for ByuN, but obviously that starport is going to be out of the rotation for a little while. It's not going to be able to produce until it flies back home. And now Serral actually has apparently decided, you know what? You don't have much of anything. If you don't have much of anything, I'm just going to try and knock on your front door. He's polite. He always knocks. There you go. Knock, knock, knock. I mean, rapid fire knocking is a real thing. He's, yeah, min-maxed his knocking abilities. Knock, 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 knock. Coming up. There it is. Dealing whatever damage he can. He had those units, so he may as well. Probably making them actually because he was a little afraid of like a Liberator follow-up. So Liberator there rather than a Viking would have been a good choice. Now Marines pop out of this. There you go. This is good. Lovely work here by ByuN. Getting all 3 Ravagers. Retaliation here at last. Okay, now what exactly is the follow-up going to be here for our Terran? It looks like it's once again going to be a big bio push. I don't hate it. It's just that I don't love it either. Because again, this seems like it would hit very late. Like, until this Terran army starts moving, Zerg has free reign of the map. And that means that the creep, it's starting to spread. Right? You blink twice, it's going to be halfway across. Serral right now is making himself up for a +1/+1 roach speed push, it seems. Which is the most classical Zerg timing attack. +1/+1 roach speed is an absolute banger of an attack. Especially in unordinary and unorthodox games. And if he can get enough units out to defend against this push, it may very well look like game number 1 did, where ByuN had this fancy attack coming and it just fell flat on its face. I hope that ByuN here, for his sake, is not overestimating the advantage that he got from that Hellion opener, because would have liked it a whole lot better if he didn't lose the medevac there, to be honest. Okay, he decides to stim forward and go in. This is, of course, before those Roach 1/1 upgrades kick in. ByuN's starting to get a little bit of work done. Okay, you'd love to see it. Quite a few units here are falling. 16 additional Roaches, though, on that production tab. Maybe this is hitting Serral a little earlier than expected, but yeah. That looked pretty good. Again, that looked pretty good for ByuN, but what did he actually achieve? Like, he traded out units there with the Zerg, and sure, he may have gotten the economical advantage overall, as far as, like, the units lost go, but his economy is significantly weaker. 3rd Command Center has only just now started up, so this is 7.5 minutes into the game. Serral has been mining off of 3 bases here for a long time. 2 Infestors coming up again, too. I actually think the decision now not to attack, even though he had that timing attack here coming, is very clever. Link speed together with the +2 missile coming up. ByuN, of course, has medevacs, so he has to load units into the medevacs. Serral was already rallying units towards the main base, and he's gonna see indeed that this attack does come in. Yeah, and now we're playing Serral's game again. This is exactly what Serral wants to be playing in every single Zerg versus Terran. Defend, 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 and then eventually overwhelm. And this feels like a game where he can indeed defend from a pretty significant advantage too. Now mind you, it's not like he's at an overwhelming lead here, but as this game progresses, it's gonna get better for him. ByuN is late on the armory. He's late on the 2nd engineering bay. +2/+2 already fired up a while ago here for the Zerg. Medevac drop comes back in. Maybe if he can kill one of the tech structures, that would be nice. Okay. This is mostly just a link speed, though, in case he wants to go Zerglings. New spawning pool will be coming up soon enough. Doesn't really matter all too much. Push over here. Fungal growth. Massive fungal growth as well. trying to cross the distance right here to the siege tanks. There are, however, quite a few of them. One of the tanks has already gone down, and Serral decides to sit here and fight, mostly because he's got +1 armor against unupgraded siege tanks. That's another siege tank that finds its grave over here. And I think ByuN, very frustrated with this particular series, he decides to tap out as Serral puts another name on the list of players that he's destroyed as of late. Whew, I hope you enjoyed watching that. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as new videos go live. And also make sure to check out my second YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/morelowko. There's a link down below in the description of this video. It's basically a place where I put all of the completed games that I have streamed on Twitch. And that includes custom campaigns for StarCraft 2. So for example, right now, I'm playing a bunch of different custom campaigns for SC2. Go check it out. Links down below in the description. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.